Right, for the blessings, we are back with another video. All right, we'll run through a couple quick announcements as usual. 8th annual Journey of the Black Adept Conference. That's going to take place October 30th to November 2nd right here in Hollywood, Florida. 4-day event, classes, workshops, presentations, some socializing, rituals. So kicks off Thursday night, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time with a meet and greet and an opening ritual. Friday and Saturday, classes, workshops, presentations from 9 to 4 p.m. Then we come back in the evening on both nights, on Friday and Saturday, around 7:30, 8 o'clock. And we perform a group ritual together. And then we have a dinner and social afterwards on both nights, kind of just kicking in, hanging out, getting some food. And then on Sunday, a question and answer session by yours truly from noon to 4 p.m. You can attend the conference live and in person. You can sign up, or virtually. You could do that now. That is available to do right now. Shoot me an email at khnum19@gmail.com. Please specify in your email if you want information on virtually attending or attending in person, or both. And I'll send you that information over. All right. If you're interested in a spiritual reading or a consultation, I offer various different types of readings. And I offer Santa Muerte readings, Egyptian oracle readings, telepathic demonic readings. I think I said Santa Muerte readings, right? Deity readings to see what gods, goddesses, and demons and spirits walk with you. Shadow work readings, which is always a great reading to do, especially if you're looking for a sense of purpose or direction as far as ritual work or what you should be doing on your path. As I said before, I always instruct and teach people you should be designing your work first and foremost for your needs first before your wants. And again, if you take care of those needs and address those needs first, the wants will automatically come. Trust me when I tell you. Maybe you're just interested in a spiritual consultation. People will use that as a session with me to just ask me a bunch of questions. They'll literally come with a paper with a bunch of questions on it. Because maybe you got a lot of questions about the occult, the left-hand path, spirituality, or maybe you want to focus on a specific area of interest, etc. Any of the aforementioned, shoot me an email, khnum19@gmail.com. And please include in your email your full weekly availability and the time zone. And we'll find a day and time that works for both of us. All right? Also, don't forget to check out the Primordial Chaos Patreon page to sign up for classes. That's the way to take the classes I offer. I have a bunch of classes ongoing right now. If you want to see what's going on, go to the Patreon page, patreon.com/Baniti, Baniti. Go to the collection section. If you go to the collection section, you will see all the ongoing classes, and it's a ton of them. There's enough of information, resources, ritual work, classes to keep you busy. Probably won't even be able to get to it in the next 10, 15 years. And I say that with confidence, not arrogance. To have access to all the classes, you need to become a Tier 3 member. Tier 3 gives you access to all the classes. I do 3 private classes every month on Patreon for Patreon members only. And that also includes the group ritual we do together at the end of the month. We have the Al-Kidder, the green one. The Ritual of Melchizedek, going to take place this upcoming Friday, which is tomorrow as the recording of this video, the 26th of September. When you join Tier 3, keep in mind also, it doesn't give you access just from the day you join moving forward. It gives you access to everything in the archives going just about 6 years back now. All right, so that's patreon.com/Baniti, Baniti. Tier 3 is the tier you want to join. All right, don't forget to check out all the social media pages. Primordial Chaos 9, all one word, on Instagram. Primordial Chaos, 2 words, on Facebook. And primordialchaos.com 3 on TikTok. Please go to those social media platforms, subscribe. That will keep you abreast of all the latest happenings here at Primordial Chaos, classes, events, rituals, etc. That's the best way to stay abreast of what I do on those platforms. All right. Also, don't forget to check out the podcast available on Spotify and all major podcast platforms. Most importantly, don't forget to hit that like button. Hit that like button. It takes less than a half a second to do. Let's get these algorithms of these videos out there. Because you know with mine and people that are talking about content like this, they try to dumb down the algorithms, not popular content across the board. We're talking some cold hard truth here, but that's another story. But hit that like button. Also subscribe, hit the notification bell, make sure you check all notifications, and hopefully you get all notifications when I go live or upload a video. The Hip Hop Occult Show, want to throw that out there. Great response to our last show. We got an upcoming one soon, going to get that up soon. We're going to try to stay a little more consistent with that. So look up very soon for the next Hip Hop Occult Show. Other than that, if you need to, get the contact links for anything I just said, my contact email address, the social media page, the Patreon page for classes, the podcast, all of those links are in the description box of this video you're watching right now. All right, you see the title. So in some recent discussions the last few days and through some experiences, I keep telling you guys about the spiritual warfare that started real heavy a couple of years ago, but over the last couple of days, things have transpired to those that know, right? There's things going on because you're fighting this battle with eyes things you can't see with your physical eyes, and I keep telling people that. Okay? You're fighting a battle you cannot see with your physical eyes, and I want to explain this. Now, for those that are not really linked in like that, I'm just going to keep it 100%. You may not really be feeling anything or experiencing anything. So nothing's really happening for you. But again, I'm going to go back to what I said at the end of last year, going into the beginning of this year. They're going to try hard this year to come after spiritual people, to come after people that speak the truth. And as I said, and I've talked about this on and off throughout the year, we need to be prepared and build up our psychic self-defense, build up our spiritual power, and you'll be fine. You won't have no problem. But there are people being attacked and going through spiritual attacks. Whether that's they underestimated it, or whether that's they maybe didn't understand to the extent. And I told you in the beginning of the year, end of last year, beginning of this year, they would use extreme low frequencies to really come at people. And what that basically does is people would have mental, emotional, spiritual, and physical effects. So some of the physical effects, and some of you have reached out to me, and I told you this through experiences in the past. Some might noticing extreme headaches, very unusual allergies to a level where, or sinus and allergy infections to a level where it's just absurd. Last year, I know I was dealing with like levels of mucus that were insane, and that's your body obviously fighting off any viruses or infection, because your body, you are a living organism, you are a living entity, and when your temple gets polluted, it's going to fight it off, right? As I said before, there's a lot of things going on in the scene, and I'm just going to use simplistic terms. There's a lot of things going on in the seen and the unseen world, okay? But these attacks are launched from the unseen or the spiritual world, okay? And don't underestimate the powers that be. I'm not going to go into, again, who the powers that be are. You should know that by now when I'm saying that and talking about that in my videos. As I said, this is not, they have an agenda for power and control, okay? Whoever has the power and control, rules, right? And in order to have that power and control, they have to control every facet and aspect of your existence. Forget just your life, your existence, right? And that's a lot of the things you see going on with the technology, with the AI, with all the current events going on all over the world, right? As I said, it's the Great Divide, etc. But the main thing we need to be prepared for, that we're fighting this war with our spiritual eye, okay? Because the physical eyes, you're gonna lose. If you're depending on that, on everything that you see to validate, the reality of that, if that's what you're depending on, it's not going to work. Okay, when I say your spiritual eye or eyes, whether you want to singular it, say it singular or plural, but I'll just say your spiritual eyes, right? Because when the body is full of light and intellect, and it becomes one, and that, or as we say, that third eye, or that brow chakra is open, this is what gives you an awareness or an influx of your higher spiritual faculties or senses. So you must be able to fight this battle with all of your spiritual senses: touch, feel, and most importantly, that spiritual eye open and activated, because the reality is this. As I've said many times before, if you're not in tune, and again, I'm using simplistic terms, it's going to be hard for you to pick up on these spiritual vibration and frequencies. Like some are describing, and I notice sometimes when they're putting that low vibrational frequency energy out there, sometimes it might drain you a little bit. It might make you a little bit tired, right? But usually that's actually a good sign, because that's your body, your mind, your soul, and your spirit fighting it off. But if you're getting such, or you're getting extreme physical effects from this, and what I'm talking about is the headaches, the migraines, the just, sharp shooting pains to different portions of your body, getting sick physically, then that's a telltale sign you're not rooted in your spiritual power, and you have not formed a good psychic and spiritual self-defense against these low vibrational frequency attacks. Okay? And I'm telling you, you don't have to, I don't care who's watching this video, believes it, accepts it or not. That's irrelevant to me. That's not what my job is. My job is just to put the information out there. You can just wander around thinking, oh, that's bullshit. Oh, no, that's exactly what they want you to do. Stay spiritually dead and just worry about the physical and think, oh, that's a bunch of nonsense, this, that, and the third. Well, you could take that approach, because as time goes on and as things evolve and change, at some point you will come to the reality of it. Now, those that are saying, oh, I don't see anything going on. No, everything's still the same for me. Exactly. Nothing should be the same for you at this point with what's been going on the last several years. So if you're a person who is not seeing anything, feeling anything, experiencing anything, not noticing any differences or changes, then I'm just going to put it as blunt as I can. They pretty much got you. Right? They're not worried about people like that. They're worried about people who are fighting this spiritual war, waking themselves up and waking those around them up, because that's the threat. Thinking for yourself. I keep telling you guys, self-mastery or apotheosis or self-deification, which is basically in alignment with all the same things, that's true spiritual freedom or sovereignty. Right? I've talked about this so many times over the years. Now, I'm not talking about sovereignty like through Moorish knowledge and information, not political sovereignty, right? I'm talking about spiritual sovereignty. They don't want you to have that. They don't want you to have that liberation and freedom, because then you think for yourself. And then you think outside the box, and then you have a nonconformist mentality, and that's a threat. A threat to what? A threat to the agenda of complete control over everybody's existence, or as I said before, the war for the control of your mind. And I used the term in the past, interplanetary warfare, because you're dealing with all the beings that we talk about, gods, goddesses, and demons and spirits on this path. You're talking about spiritual entities that vibrate outside of three-dimensional existence. You're talking about different dimensions, realms. I don't know if time zone is the right word, but through various different aspects of existence that are all engaged in this warfare or this fight or this spiritual battle in some shape, form, or fashion. Now, depending on how you're linked in and how you're connected with your spirits, or the gods, goddesses, and demons and your ancestors, and how you're connected to this is going to determine and clearly define to you is what your job or role is in this whole process. See, that's the other thing. A lot of people don't understand their role, right? Sometimes people want to play a role that's not what they're designed to do. And when you're dealing with spiritual warfare, sometimes you got to do things that you may not like or may not be things that you're most interested in, but that's your job, that's your calling, right? If everybody was doing the same thing, then nothing would get done. Think about that for a minute. If everybody was striving, trying to be, or doing the same thing, nothing would get done. So you got to identify your role in this, and how do you impact this to bring about the necessary change to turn the tides, right? Because look, for those that know, it's thick out here. When I say it's thick out here, you can feel it. You can feel it in the ethers. You can feel it in the atmosphere. You can feel it when you go to certain places, right? You could be certain areas and you tap into energies of it. You know, some people is lost, man. It's chaos and confusion out here. People are just caught up in this fucking matrix out here. And then you can also tap into those who are linked in. And this helps you identify how you set your circles and your parameters. I told you, as I've gotten older, and I'm not just saying older in physical age, I'm talking about as I've gotten older in wisdom, my circles become smaller and smaller because, like I've said before, I don't want no intrusive or negative energy in my circle that's going to disrupt my vibrational frequency that I'm in alignment with, right? This is also part of the process of putting up your psychic and spiritual self-defense, okay? I don't know how many times I got to say that. So that you're going to find as you get older, not just in physical age, but wisdom, them circles get smaller and smaller. And you don't really want to be around people, right? Not in the sense where it's abnormal, not in the sense where you're super introverted and you've kind of disconnected yourself from everything. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about, I know clearly, especially when it comes to people, if you're not resonating on my frequency, I know where I'm at in my spiritual journey right now. I can't have you in my circle because you're going to be disruptive to me, and I might even be disruptive to you. Because if you're not in alignment with my energy, that might cause problems. Okay? So when you're tapped in and you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, you pick up on this. Like I'm sure like many others, I can pick up on this immediately. I can be around somebody for a short period of time within a minute or so, no exaggeration. I already know what my, parameters with this person should be, or how I should interact with this person or not interact with this person. And I don't care if that's man, woman, or child, okay? That's how deep this becomes when you're building up your psychic and spiritual self-defense and you're trying to stay rooted and centered and grounded and harmonized in your spiritual power. There's a lot of work that comes along with that. Okay? And you become, as I've said before in other videos, your vibrational energy and frequency becomes very spiritually sensitive, is a word I'll throw out there. Sensitive in the fact because you tap in and you sense everything that you would describe as good or bad. Right? So it's a two-way street. I'm not just saying you're just going to tap into all the bad stuff and the negative stuff, but you're so sensitive. The good thing is you pick up on these things right out the gate. But you can't see them if that spiritual eye or that third eye is not open and is not vibrating, and you have not, done things to make yourself less dense, or you have not done things to decalcify that pineal gland, for lack of a better word. Right? So you can receive, quote unquote, the enlightenment or the illumination or the knowledge or the intellect that you need in order for you to take the proper steps and measures to fight off, I don't know whether you want to call it spiritual attacks or spiritual battles, right? And strengthen yourself on all aspects or facets, whether that's mentally, emotionally, spiritually, or physically, right? All your spiritual faculties and senses need to be working, right? Listening to that inner voice or the personal Damon or the true or higher self that's trying to awake within, but we keep doing shit to suppress it because we still want to do worldly shit and dumb shit all the time. We still just want to hang out in the clubs, get drunk and get high and just do low vibrational frequency shit, right? This is the stuff that I'm talking about. And they get you trapped, whether it's through music, through media, shit. And as we know, social media is either a productive or a super destructive tool. Okay? So the more low vibrational frequency shit you do, they're not worried about, as I said before, people on that level. They're worried about the ones that are trying to master themselves, try to perfect themselves to the best of their ability. One that's in tune with mind, body, spirit, and soul. The that's meditating and communicating with the spiritual world, that's doing ritual work to activate the god or the goddess that is laying dormant within, awakening the true or the real self. I don't care if you call it the inner being, your guardian angel, or as we like to say on the occult or the left-hand path, your personal daemon, your true and higher self. Okay, that's what they don't want you to do. Because once that is awakened within, you're gonna feel, think, and do things completely different. But the war, the actual war that I'm talking about in itself, is when we use that concept of the higher self and the lower self, for lack of a better word. You keep letting the lower or the weaker you constantly emerge victorious. So if your whole life is predicated on going to clubs, hanging out, partying, getting fucked up, just getting some pussy or getting some dick or whatever it is you do, if that is what your whole life is centered on, then you are that super low vibrational frequency being. See, we're taught on this path when it comes to indulging. We're taught to feed our sexual desires and appetites within reason and discipline. We're taught to indulge when it comes to the carnal side of our nature and the physical world, but not to the point where it consumes us, right? So one thing this path is unique when it comes to things like that, it's about indulging with discipline and reason. It's not about suppressing it, because then this is a mistake other people make when it comes to the carnal side of their nature, especially when it comes to sex or sexual energy. People think just suppressing it or cutting it off is something noble and super spiritual. I'm super spiritual because I'm abstaining fully from sex. Now, I want to be careful as I say that, because abstinence is a form of sex magic, okay? But there has to be clear terms defining that. Now, I've heard people, I know I'm kind of shifting a little bit here, but I've heard men say, well, you know, sperm retention builds up power. Yes, it does, right? But as a whole, there has to be something to clearly justify why you're doing that. Now, you should never be suppressing your sexual energy to the point where it becomes an issue or a blockage, where you're fighting it so bad that it starts to basically overcome every aspect of you, and you're struggling to stay disciplined, etc. That is not a healthy thing or a good thing, especially spiritually and mentally, right? So that's why I say the understanding the principles of indulging within reason and discipline is the solution to that. Now, on the flip side of that, let me say this before I move on and get ready to wrap this up. Having no discipline and just being buck wild and having sex with anything and anybody, that too is very destructive, right? So as you see, I'm trying to paint a clear picture. You must seek a means in between. How do I satisfy my sexual appetite and desires and feed my sexual energy, but not to the point where I'm self-destructive to myself, whether I'm struggling to completely, stay abstinent for whatever reason, or I'm becoming over-sexualized to the point where that personal chaos is devouring, controlling me. And this is an aspect of spirituality a lot of paths don't address or talk about. And they usually just have the solution, it's a don't do this or don't do that answer. And that's not the solution. And I bring that up because the battle with the sex force and sex energy is part of this spiritual war. Because some people are being consumed and destroyed by sexual energy for lack of control. Some people have sex addiction. Some people are being controlled by pornography. They can't survive without it, right? These are the destructive aspects of and there's a Greek god called porne, and this is why they call it porno. And they know it's a force, it's an energy. So not only if you're talking about just straight hardcore porn, there's a level of pornography now in everything you see, whether it's TVs. I mean, not that it wasn't always there, but it's there now on a level that has increased dramatically over the years. Look at a lot of these music videos now. I mean, there's women pretty much 75% naked in these videos. And everything in the videos is very seductive and this, that, and the third. And all this is intentional. So I want to be clear. One of the weapons they use in this spiritual warfare to control men and women is the sex force, right? So get in tune. Now, the reality is when it comes to this, excuse me, sorry. Understand your sexual energy, right? Some people have very high sex drives. Some people have very normal sex drives. Some people have very low sex drives. And you need to understand the reasons for that, good and bad. And balance that out, because when your sexual energy is unbalanced or not harmonized, this too creates spiritual problems and issues. All right? So the sex force is a very powerful force that they use. They've been using, but they've amped it up a notch, for lack of a better word. Don't be deceived. They've stepped it up a notch. Don't be tricked. So it's very important that we wake up and don't get trapped in this low vibrational frequency energy, because to some it's going to be very self-destructive. Some people are going to get completely devoured in their personal chaos because they're not going to have any discipline or control. And again, you don't have to, couldn't care less if you accept what I'm saying as being true, or you can say this guy's crazy, or if those of us at Baniti, what are you talking about? You'll find out. You'll either find out in a good or a bad way. I told you this would be the year, and even moving forward, that they would upstep their attacks through extreme low frequencies, setting out certain frequencies and energies, altering your brain pattern, altering the way you think, making you feel a certain way or think a certain way, right? And making you do things out of pocket, out of character, making you feel the actual physical effects. Like I said, the migraine headaches, the ringing in the ears, the feeling sick, the extreme pains. Like I said, you can't explain it. Some people even go to the doctor. Oh, they ran this test, that. Oh, I don't see anything wrong. That's because of what you're dealing with is nothing of a physical nature, right? And for those of you who say, well, I don't know what you're talking about, and nothing's happened to me. I feel the same like I always say. Okay, well, good. Then this doesn't apply to you. So they're not interested, basically, in you because you're actually no threat. Keep doing what you're doing and just live out your mundane existence. So it don't apply to you. But for those that understand what I'm saying, whether it's on the good side or the bad side, whatever that is, there's something going on, and take due notice and make the necessary adjustments to address it, all right? And stop fighting this spiritual war with eyes, the physical eyes, because what you're up against is of a spiritual nature. It's not something you're going to be able to see with the physical eyes. And make sure all your spiritual faculties are working, and you're doing ritual work, and you're staying disciplined, this, that, and the third. Okay? Because that's how you fight this war. Real simple. All right? Other than that, I probably extended my time a little bit more than I would like to. Let's go wrap it up on this video. Hopefully this tutorial helped you. If you need to reach out to me for a spiritual reading or a consultation, or you need my contact email address, the direct link to the Primordial Chaos podcast, the direct link to the Primordial Chaos Patreon page to sign up for classes, the social media pages, all of those links are in the description box of the video you're watching right now. And again, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell, check all notifications so you get notified when I go live or post a video. All right, that's going to wrap it up for me. It's kind of what I wanted to talk about in this video. I'll talk with you guys soon. Infernal blessings.